This is my moment. Whoa, I was born for greatness. Oh, a legend in the making, deep in my bones. Oh yeah, I know I am the champion. Whoa, come on, try and take it. Whoa, it all comes down to this and deep in my bones. Oh yeah, I know I am the champion. You know I'm out for blood. I'm feeling dangerous.
Alright y'all, it is time for another video. Today we're going to be covering the 2021 Drivers' Championship. This is going to be an unsporting review of the season. Why is it an unsporting review? Well, because the Pretender in the Octa Champion versus the Pretender debate, the Pretender, he discarded all driving etiquette through the season. And as a result, he was very unsporting in the way he drove at various instances throughout the season. And it started very early on. People think that the whole flashpoint was at Silverstone. And while people certainly remember things like Brazil and Jeddah because those ones have staying power in their mind because it's just so ridiculous what happened there. Never mind the season finale at Abu Dhabi. But anyway, let's get into this whole review. So it starts off in Bahrain. So in Bahrain, Verstappen overtakes Sir Lewis Hamilton going off the circuit. Now personally, for me, there's nothing wrong with this move. Right? Funny that, right? The very first one. Alright. There's nothing wrong with this move, right? But circuit ordinances for the weekend deemed it an illegal overtake. So the rules that were put out, printed out, sent to the teams, faxed out, whatever, emailed out, they said that, okay, you can't, overtakes around the outside over here. If you go off circuit, those aren't going to be counted. So it's illegal in that regard. Alright. It should be noted that those ordinances are published on Thursdays before any cars do any running. He's extending the track, and on account of doing that, he can go faster, so he completes the overtake. Alright, fine. Personally, for me, nothing really wrong.
Verstappen and Hamilton wheel to wheel going into the field of the Tamburello chicane. Hamilton is forced.
Next race is at San Marino. So for San Marino, we have a turn 1 lap 1 incident. Alright, just for posterity, Verstappen doesn't actually have to leave racing room here. But do note that if he's not going to leave racing room in a turn 1 lap 1 scenario, or in any real lap 1 scenario, then he shouldn't really expect to be left racing room in future, right? If that's how he's going to conduct himself as far as driving etiquette goes. Because why is that? He had the inside of turn 3 lined up, and he was going to make it there first regardless of what Sir Lewis Hamilton tried. Either way, he still shuffled him off the circuit. Noted. Alright? Noted. Portimao, nothing happened.
As Verstappen goes into turn 1 and goes past the Mercedes. He got his elbows out there.
Spain. Another turn 1, lap 1 incident. Or should I say a missed incident because Sir Lewis Hamilton is having to duck out of the way and dodge Verstappen cosplaying as Torpedo Kvyat. But at Spain, turn 1, lap 1, that move that Verstappen has done there, if he's trying that on any other driver on the grid, they're crashing. They're crashing. What's really impressive there is that Sir Lewis Hamilton actually keeps it on track somehow, so he doesn't have to take the penalty route. That's what's really impressive there. Right, never mind that he's saving Verstappen all this face bite by making sure he's not responsible for an incident between the championship contenders. The only reason Verstappen's actually been let off for that move is because it's lap 1. Right, if he was making that move on any other lap of the Grand Prix, I mean, the stewards would have to say something about it. They would have to. Right, the overtake on lap 60 will be noted for Verstappen's weaving. Right, he also did a lot of weaving throughout the season. Some of you will note that I've skipped over Portimao. Nothing notable happened at Portimao. That was good, clean racing there. I mean, the circuit looks a little harem-scarum, but especially in that first corner complex. But I mean, the drivers make it work somehow.
He's going to try again, this time on the inside, a continent touch! Verstappen is out of the race!
Now, every Grand Prix, up to Silverstone, well, nothing happens between the rivals. They're not really on the same piece of track at any given moment. But we get to Silverstone, and I've had multiple analyses on what so happened there. And I've been as charitable as possible with Verstappen on some analyses, and in others I've just called it 50-50. And here's the bottom line of it, right? The bottom line of it is that Maximilian Verstappen at Silverstone, for that incident into what was that? Right, that incident they had going into cops. Look, here's the bottom line. The bottom line is that Maximilian Verstappen closed the angle of the corner down. He closed down the angle of the corner. If he's going to do that, then, well, you're going to have to open up the angle of the corner on the exit. He did not do that. Why did he not do that? Because he expected Sir Lewis Hamilton to back out like he had done in Spain and at San Marino. That's what he expected. And that's not what Sir Lewis Hamilton did. He kept his foot in. Why did he keep his foot in? Because Maximilian Verstappen has been keeping his foot in the whole time. Right? If he's going to keep his foot in and expect Sir Lewis Hamilton to have spidey senses and jump out the way, then guess what, Maximilian? You're going to have to be able to do that too. And if you're unable to mix it at that moment, well, you're going to come off worse for wear. Why are you going to come off worse for wear? Because you're patently unaware of the full dynamics that are going on around you. Right? So Maximilian, he left his foot in at cops after closing down the angle of the corner. And Sir Lewis Hamilton, rightfully so, also left his foot in. Now sure, the stewards can penalize him to get past the optics. In fact, they shouldn't have done anything. Right? That's the bottom line. They shouldn't have actually done anything. Horner made a real big kerfuffle. He kicked the social media up into a frenzy. And well, the stewards had some damage control to do after Horner let his motor mouth go for a bit. But really, what happened there at Silverstone, Maximilian can only blame himself for. But sure, you know what? Let me be charitable with Maximilian, right? I'll give Sir Lewis Hamilton the +1 here on the unsporting mark, right? So, what's the score now? 3-1. Right? Maximilian has been responsible for 3 incidents, and Sir Lewis Hamilton, being as charitable to Max Verstappen as possible, has now been responsible for 1. After Silverstone, it's Hungary. I call this the Bottas farewell party. I mean, there's not much to note here between the rivals. They keep it clean here, albeit that's likely only because of Bottas playing bowls into the first corner and damaging both the Red Bulls. Right? Belgian Grand Prix, nothing happened bar Michael Massey not being able to get a race going because the track is too wet. Unrelated to the topic of this vid, but in future I would like to see the cars permitted to complete a few laps under VSC speeds if the F1 circus encounters conditions like that again. Might clear up the track enough to get a race going, but I digress. Zandvoort, clean race, nothing to note. Bottas would be a talking point of this Grand Prix if it were a GP observations, I suppose.
It's wheel to wheel, Hamilton and Verstappen, and this time Verstappen and Hamilton have crashed out.
Alright, time for the second trip in Italy, this time in Monza. Alright, so lap 1 into the La Roggia chicane, that's the second chicane complex. well, Sir Lewis Hamilton probably should have clocked at this point of the season to stay away from Maximilian Verstappen and chicanes. There's nothing expressly wrong with that lap 1 defensive maneuver from Verstappen, but it does read very clumsily with what's coming up in the race. So lap 26 into the Rettifilia is the first chicane. Now, just observing the type of reciprocation Verstappen has expected from Sir Lewis Hamilton, not only in the same Grand Prix, but also at Spain and Imola, right? He has no grounds to be placing his car in that closing gap of the circuit in the middle of the chicane. He's got no grounds to do that. Sir Lewis Hamilton, by the way, was still being far too nice with Verstappen going into the corner. He shouldn't have even left him like racing room, quite frankly. But we can chalk that up to him not wanting to damage the car. Well, great lot of mileage that got. Regardless, Verstappen has placed his car in a position where he is guaranteed to have a crash. Right, he's guaranteed to have a crash. So he gets the +1 on this occasion. What's the score now? 4-1? Could count 2 for this Grand Prix, but I'll say 4-1. I'm not going to get into the halo and the car riding fiasco. I will, however, mention that Damon Hill was undoubtedly right in his assessment of this incident being calculated on Verstappen's part. Russian Grand Prix, nothing happened. Istanbul, nothing happened. USA, clean race.
But he is forced wide by Verstappen, and Verstappen himself has to go off the track.
And on to Brazil. Now, the final races of the season, they really speak for themselves. Okay, they really do speak for themselves. Brazil. What did Horner say? Was it Horner or was it Wheatley? Or was it Horner or Whatley that said on the radio, oh, that's all about letting them race? I believe it was Horner. Whoa. I'm starting this off with the Horner quotable because it's laughable. It really is laughable after the driving masterclass Sir Lewis Hamilton and Perez put on prior to that incident. It's really laughable. It's all about letting them race. Well, all the other guys are racing quite cleanly. Right, so that's a +1 for Verstappen on the sporting tally. So now that's 5-1. And at this point of the season, it should be noted that Verstappen is driving to a different rule set than everybody else, even his own teammate. Right, no investigation was necessary, according to the stewards. I mean, if we were still in the Garagista days, I mean, there would have been a fist fight on pit road. There really would have been a fist fight. Fisticuffs would have come out. Why is that? Because Sir Lewis Hamilton has literally had to have a sixth sense, a spidey sense, and jump out of the way of Maximilian cosplaying as Kvyat. Again, it's been happening all season anytime they've gotten close to each other. Alright, so I'm editing this video. And it's just jumped out to me that even the cameraman didn't know what was going on in Brazil. He didn't know what, come on, any other time the cameraman is having to track back to try and find the cars because they haven't turned when they're supposed to. And Formula 1 cameraman, I mean motorsports cameraman, but specifically Formula 1 and I suppose WEC. But I mean, the cameraman has a very hard job keeping track of these thoroughbred machines as they're careering through these corners. So, the cameraman actually has to have some anticipation as to, okay, the cars are coming, I'm gonna have to swing the camera to keep track of them. We saw Alonso try the cameraman thing, right? We saw Alonso try that. It ain't as easy as they make it look, right? Sometimes the cameraman has a gaff and the director catches it on the feed. I mean, it happens. But I mean, that's so rare anyway, right? So here in Brazil, the cameraman has been sent for a spin. Max Verstappen has been so wild with it that the cameraman has been sent for a spin. Any other time the cameraman got to do that, he's gonna be tracking an accident. But that's not exactly what happened. Why is that? Because Sir Lewis Hamilton just has spidey senses.
Max, so let's give the position back to Hamilton to do that strategically.
Oh, they touched!
Right, and then And then we get to Jeddah. We get to the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, and oh, look at that. Sir Lewis Hamilton's spidey sense couldn't keep up with Maximilian's peak stupidness, whatever he was doing in Jeddah. It just couldn't keep up. How? It's impossible. You know, no one on TV could keep up with what Maximilian Verstappen was doing at Jeddah. You see, if anyone else did what Maximilian did at Jeddah, they would have been banned for a Grand Prix, maybe 2. Right? Clown festival shit from Verstappen here. So, restart 1, he jumps turn 2 to try to make a pass. Really, this is the championship contender. This is a championship contender. This is why he's the pretender at the start of this video. He's still the pretender. Lap 37, he jumps turn 2 to stay ahead of Sir Lewis Hamilton. Alright, now I said in Brazil he's racing to a different rule set. Lap 37 again with a brake check. I'm still wondering how Verstappen saw this one playing out in his head. Like, he's going to slam on the brakes in the middle of the racing line, and what's going to happen exactly? Right, on lap 42, he isn't clued in on how penalty overtake procedures actually go. Why is that? Because I suppose he hasn't gotten the penalties that he should have gotten. It's not as problematic as the other incidents, but it's a problem nonetheless. So this race was just an outright mare and clusterfuck for Verstappen. He's very fortunate to have such a performance gap on the rest of the field in this Grand Prix. And he's very lucky that in the Sun Sporting Review, I'm only chalking it up to 1 point per event. So what's the score? Because the final Grand Prix of the season is Abu Dhabi. What's the score now? 6 to Sir Lewis Hamilton's 1 at Silverstone. And that's a very charitable one to Maximilian Verstappen. A very, very charitable 1 point that I am adding on to Lewis Hamilton's unsporting tally for the 2021 season.
Those back markers allowed to overtake the safety car.
Michael, this isn't right.
Right, now we're at Abu Dhabi. Finally, we're at the season finale. Now, for what the rivals could affect themselves, we're only going to be looking at lap 1, turn 6, I believe. These corners don't have names. So, if Sir Lewis Hamilton tries to make that turn, right, and I see a lot of, well, I saw and still do see in some places people talking about this incident, lap 1, turn 6 at Abu Dhabi, right? If Sir Lewis Hamilton tries to make that corner, guess what? They're crashing. The lads are going to crash. It's Spain all over again. Except this time, cutting the corner is actually faster than trying to make it anyway. So everyone got into a kerfuffle over that. Well, Sir Lewis Hamilton was actually forced off circuit. Now, they don't say that out loud for whatever reason. So it's +1 to Verstappen on that. For trying to have another incident with his title rival. Perez has another good duel with Sir Lewis Hamilton sometime later in the race. And, you know, the fix is in, right? We all know the fix was in. When Brundle was making a big ruckus and kerfuffle about Sir Lewis Hamilton needing to give up the position after that lap 1 incident at turn 6, those who are in the know, right, we all know that he's trying to prime the audience for it to happen. You'll be aware that they'll probably be tracking the social medias to see what the thoughts are from the general public at that moment in time, and if Brundle's primer worked. Because if Brundle's primer had actually been bid on by the public, then they would have actually handed Sir Lewis Hamilton a penalty right there and then. But the social medias was too loud, saying, oh my goodness, if they make Sir Lewis Hamilton drop back a position because Max Verstappen has just forced him off the circuit, it's gonna be a whole freak show on the social medias. So they didn't give him that penalty. He's not supposed to get that penalty anyway, right? But they just on account of the way Brundle was reacting to the whole situation, they definitely wanted to give him a penalty. Now, regarding my thoughts on the whole Massey ordeal, quite simply, the fix was in. I say the fix was in because the thing was fixed from the start. From the very start of the Grand Prix. I've already mentioned Brundle trying to prime the public. Ergo, the thing was fixed. So what has Massey done? Massey has engineered a situation wherein his guy, their guy, can take the victory and take the plaudits. Right, that's verbatim what happened, right? If they wanted to have a quote-unquote racing spectacle to finish the season, then they would have red flagged the race, right? Abu Dhabi is always a quick Grand Prix. It's not like we're pressed for time to finish the Grand Prix or anything anytime we go there. So you red flag the race, you give the marshals time, you know, unsung heroes, the marshals and the cameramen that have been talked about in this video, but you give the marshals time to clear the car and then you can set up your race, and you'll probably have the 6-7 laps of hard racing to see out the championship. Box office TV, you know, whichever way it falls, no one's going to complain about the results unless some sort of dirty play happens by one of the drivers. But no, that's not what happened. What happened was they forced Sir Lewis Hamilton into a situation where it was illogical to pit because, well, if they follow procedures fully, then the race isn't going to be restarted and it's going to finish on the safety car. Right, but they skirted procedures. We know about the cars that didn't get unlapped. We know about the cars that did get unlapped, and we know that they're supposed to run a whole nother lap behind the safety car after that happens. And what? You know, fuck the rule book. We're making a spectacle, right? We're making history over here. But anyway, this whole Abu Dhabi thing is probably the day F1 died. I mean, it really depends what happens en route to 2025. Really depends what happens with the world en route to 2025. But is F1 dead? We'll see. We'll see. Looks like it's on its dying legs to me now. Because, well, the jig is up, right? Bernie is so good at maintaining kayfabe. He's so good at that. What is kayfabe? Kayfabe is when, it's like the wrestlers, right? We're dealing with the wrestlers and shit. The wrestlers are characters. Those are not real people in the stage doing all of that. Those are characters. They're real people away from the stage, but in the stage, on the stage, in the ring. Those are not real people. When they're doing a shoot and someone's getting buried alive or what have you, you know, no one's getting buried alive. That motherfucker's going home. Undertaker went home that night, you know. Like, you know. So what is kayfabe? Kayfabe is when you get situations where, like, at a autograph signing or something, where the wrestlers will maintain character, right? Some wrestlers won't maintain character, and the whole breaking kayfabe thing came about when who are these men named? Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and Kevin Nash, and someone else, I forget who. But yeah, they were having a feud. I believe Nash was going to WCW. That was his last WWF show. It was WWF at the time. And then, after the show was over, the lads, because they're all great friends, they all came out and hugged. It's like, what? These guys are supposed to be feuding, and they broke kayfabe, right? And there's some wrestlers, you know, you go to autograph signing, they're still like playing the heel or something at the autograph signing, or even at the grocery store and some shit. Like, these are the real professionals. I respect that shit. But that's kayfabe. And Bernie, he was really good at maintaining kayfabe. Really good. Right. These new American guys, and it might even be the Americans' attitude towards communicating the occult to the public, right, and fulfilling the whole karmic retribution. The Americans, the West, the traditional West, is always pretty overt with it, right? They've got their Hollywood apparatus to throw to throw the programming at people. So they're very overt with it, right? The Europeans are very covert with it. The Koreans and the Japanese, they take trappings from the Americans because the Americans hold power over there. But yeah, the Americans, you know, they've broken kayfabe. Bernie was really good at maintaining kayfabe. Really good. You would never have said, there might have been some spicy championships here and there and all of that, but you would never have said that any race was fixed. Right, even Sir Lewis Hamilton's rookie season, the season finale at Brazil. I have to go and explain the whole ECU, the whole standard ECU deal and why it matters and why you can't have a rookie champion. I have to go and explain all these unwrittens for people to even begin to conceptualize it. But now you've got the Abu Dhabi. The race director got fired. You know, it was a whole drama. The whole affair should have gone to the Court of Arbitration for Sports. Should have gone to CAS. Didn't for whatever reason. But oh well, here we are. Right, the kayfabe has been broken. We've seen the devil behind the mask. And well, we'll see where F1 goes from here. If you want to get a deep dive, right, I suppose anyone who would be finding my video would have found his video, no doubt. But if you want to get a deep dive on all the fuckeries that went on at Abu Dhabi, you can have a look at. I'm not entirely sure how to pronounce brother's name, but I'm gonna say it's Fixed One. That's what I'm gonna run it as. Fixed One, right? I'm gonna leave a link to the video in question. He's got a soiree of videos. He's getting very granular with it. Right. But if anyone was wondering why F1 had a falling out with Maximilian Verstappen based on the film, well, I hope this video answers your question. And that is that Maximilian, well, he was far and away the most unsporting driver of the 2021 season. You know, being as charitable to him as possible, just based on the driving, he is, well, one of the dirtiest champions that we've seen for a while in F1. And this is why the greater F1 metasphere and websphere has had a falling out with Maximilian Verstappen. Never mind what's come out in post, never mind all of that. But anyway, that should be the vid. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Peace.
Hell breezy. Let me show you how to keep the dice rolling when you're doing that thing over there. Hey. Let's go! Cause I'm feeling like I'm running and I'm feeling like I gotta get away. Better know that I don't and I won't ever stop. Cause you know I gotta win every day. Go! See, you really wanna pop me. Go! Just know that you will never flop me. And I know that I gotta be a little cocky. Go! You ain't never gonna stop me. Every time I come a nigga gotta set it, then I gotta go and then I gotta get it, then I gotta blow and then I gotta shut it. Any little thing a nigga think that he be doing, cause it doesn't matter, cause I'm gonna dead it. Then I'm gonna murder everything and anything about it. Boom, about a bing. I gotta do a lot of things to make it clearer to a couple niggas that I always win and then I gotta get it again and again and again. And I be doing it to death and now I move a little foul. Nigga better call a rap and everybody know my style. Niggas know that I'm the best when it comes to doing this and I be banging on my chest and I bang in the east and I banging in the west and I kinda give you more and I will never give you less. You will hear it in the street or you can read it in the press. Do you really wanna know what's next? Let's go. See the way we on it and we all up in the race and you know we gotta go now try to keep up with the pace and we struggling and hustling to set it and to get it and we always gotta do it, take it to another place. Gotta take